Breaking news out of Las Vegas. Something is happening inside the Raiders organization that has fans stunned, frustrated, and demanding answers. After another disappointing performance, Raider Nation is asking one question: how did this team fall this far, this fast? From questionable decisions on the field, to confusion on the sideline, to a locker room that looks completely lost, the situation is spiraling. And today's game exposed problems the Raiders can no longer hide. But before we dive into the new details and everything unfolding right now, right arrow, make sure you subscribe to the channel, smash that like button, and don't forget to hit the bell icon so you never miss a breaking Raiders update. Alright, let's jump straight into the latest news. The truth is painful, but Raider Nation can see it clearly: this coaching staff has completely lost control of this team. Decisions on the sideline look confused, outdated, and stubborn. It feels like the Raiders' leadership is more focused on defending their choices than fixing the disaster happening on the field. Every week, the same issues repeat: penalties that kill drives, broken assignments on special teams, miscommunication on defense, and an offense that looks unsure of what it wants to be. With this much NFL experience on the headset, it's shocking to see a team this unprepared. At some point, someone inside the building needs to admit the obvious: the Raiders are not being coached to win. And while no one questions the character of the men leading this team, the results speak louder than anything else. Sometimes in football, just like in life, you reach a moment where you realize the person driving the car shouldn't be behind the wheel anymore. Simple mistakes are turning into weekly disasters. You can't put inexperienced players in impossible matchups, you can't keep forcing a system that clearly isn't working, and you can't ignore the lack of growth on both sides of the ball. Watching talented young players look confused, from the offense to the defense, is a sign of deeper problems. And now, frustration is spilling everywhere. Reports from the sidelines suggest tension between players and coaches, and even the front office is no longer aligned with what's happening on game day. When your locker room looks unsure, when your stars look isolated, and when your fan base feels unheard, the organization has reached a breaking point. Mark Davis didn't expect to be in this position again, but the situation is becoming impossible to ignore. The Raiders have become a reflection of a leadership group that cannot find direction, and the team is paying the price every Sunday. At this point, Raider Nation isn't asking for miracles, they're simply asking for change. The decision to push Aidan O'Connell into an emergency role instead of letting him compete is the clearest sign yet that this staff is protecting decisions instead of protecting the team. Fans in the stadium weren't booing for drama, they were begging for direction, begging for hope, and begging for someone who can spark this offense. The truth is, people want to see O'Connell because he represents something different. Something new. Something to believe in. And when the same mistakes are repeated every single week, supporters start to drift away. That's where the Raiders are right now, a fanbase desperate for something to rally behind. Geno Smith took a beating out there, but the relationship between him and this fanbase feels broken. Once trust is gone, it's hard to repair, especially when confidence in the system around him is fading as well. And when frustration spreads from the field to the fans, and from the fans to the locker room, it becomes almost impossible for a team to move forward. This isn't about one quarterback. This is about a directionless football team. A team stuck in the same cycle week after week. And unless something changes at the top, whether that means a shift at quarterback, a shakeup in the coaching staff, or a complete reset, this version of the Raiders will continue losing not just games, but the support of the people who care the most. Every Raiders fan wants the same thing: leadership that inspires confidence, a plan that makes sense, and a team that plays with purpose. Until the organization takes bold action, the noise inside Raider Nation is only going to get louder. Reactions from Raider Nation after this game tell the full story. Fans are frustrated, disappointed, and tired of watching the same mistakes define this team. The calls for change are louder than ever, and much of that frustration is centered around the quarterback position. Yes, the offensive line struggled. Yes, the pressure was constant. But even with that, there were opportunities, big ones, that slipped right through the Raiders' fingers. That opening play to Trey Tucker could have changed the entire momentum of the game. Instead, it became another reminder of how badly this offense is misfiring. The truth everyone sees now is simple: this is not the long-term answer at quarterback. And just as big of a concern is the staff responsible for evaluating, developing, and protecting that position. Raider Nation has lost confidence in this regime's ability to identify their future leader under center. When a coaching staff shows the same patterns, the same favoritism, and the same hesitation to adapt, it becomes impossible to trust the direction of the team. Fans aren't being dramatic, they're being honest. This feels like one of the most unprepared and disconnected Raiders teams in years. Injuries to key young players only add to the concerns, but the real issue goes deeper. There's no clear identity, no consistent plan, and no spark to build on. Right now, nothing feels stable. Not the offense, not the development of young talent, not the game planning, and certainly not the leadership. And when supporters look at this roster, they're struggling to find anything they can confidently hold on to as a positive. Raider Nation deserves better. And until the organization recognizes the seriousness of the situation, the frustration you're hearing today is only going to grow stronger. When a team keeps choosing the same broken answers, the result becomes predictable and painful. Fans see it: bad line play, missed adjustments, and personnel choices that protect ego instead of fixing problems. Even hopeful voices who want the front office to aim for a reset are starting to wonder if this regime would ever pull the trigger on the bold move the Raiders actually need. This isn't about hating anyone, it's about accountability. The offensive line repeatedly failed to protect the quarterback, yet the in-game corrections never arrived. Young players who needed snaps were kept on the sidelines while veterans stayed in place despite clear struggles. That pattern stunts development and signals a lack of urgency from the coaching staff. Trust is evaporating. When players look lost, when game plans don't adjust to what's happening on the field, and when the front office and coaches aren't aligned, the team's identity dissolves. Raider Nation wants to see leaders who make tough calls, not excuses, and who prioritize building for a future that actually wins. Mark Davis invested in change and talent this offseason, but resources alone aren't a guarantee. Money and draft picks matter only if they're matched by smart decisions and clear purpose. Right now, the organization looks fragmented, too many voices, not enough coherent strategy. If the Raiders are serious about turning this around, they must stop repeating the same mistakes. That means reshaping personnel decisions, committing to development for young players, and installing a game plan that fits the roster instead of forcing the roster to fit a failing system. Until those changes happen, the frustration in the stands will only grow louder, and Raider Nation's patience will continue to wear thin. The real problem eating this team alive isn't just bad execution on Sundays, it's the chaos happening long before the season even begins. The Raiders keep bringing in decision-makers who barely know the roster, who start learning players in February and April instead of shaping the team months earlier. That's the exact window when contenders build their identity: free agency, draft boards, staff hires, roster evaluations. But the Raiders walk into that crucial period blind, and every year the results look the same. By the time May and August arrive, coaches finally start figuring out who their players are, but it's already too late. The veterans who could have helped are long gone. The opportunities to fix weak spots are gone. And the remaining free agents don't want to touch Las Vegas because the franchise looks unstable, unsure, and constantly restarting from zero. Some fans scream for a tank, but tanking only works when players and coaches believe the organization has a future worth joining. Right now, even that belief is fading. The Raiders keep giving complete control to one person, McDaniels, Gruden, and now Pete Carroll, and every time it ends with the same disaster: too much power, not enough accountability. The most frustrating part is watching young talent rot on the bench while struggling veterans keep getting reps. When a game is 24-3, that's a perfect moment to build the future, yet certain players remain glued to the field while promising rookies barely touch the grass. Raider Nation can see it. They see the hesitation. They see the stubbornness. And they feel the wasted potential. Pete Carroll keeps repeating the same lines: we have to protect the quarterback better. Sure, but the offensive line was ranked far better last season with nearly the same unit. The biggest change isn't the players. It's the coaching. The direction. The leadership. The truth is simple: this version of the Raiders has no identity. No urgency. No direction. And unless something drastic shifts at the top, GM, coaching staff, power structure, the cycle will keep repeating. Raider Nation deserves a team that fights for them, not one stuck in an endless loop of excuses. What needs to happen now is clarity. A reset. A leadership group that knows the roster, believes in player development, and puts the right people in the right roles. Someone has to step up and stop the bleeding, because the Raiders cannot walk into another offseason with the same chaos disguised as hope. The season isn't over yet, but the message is clear: this franchise cannot survive another year of the same mistakes. Change has to come, real change, or the Raiders will keep sinking while the rest of the league moves forward.